on the twilight-ringed world of Vaelora, where the skies glowed with shifting colors and gravity sang in low, harmonic pulses, a young woman named Kaela Rin stood at the edge of a cliff carved by time and wind. Behind her, the massive arched city of Ithara's Hollow floated within an antigraph. Base in its crystalline towers swayed gently with the planet's rhythm like trees dancing underwater. Ahead of her, endless plains shimmered beneath the aurora veil that coated the atmosphere, a liquid mirror of stars. Kaela's fingers hovered over a narrow device, embedded in her forearm, a neural etcher. With a flick of her thought, the etcher projected a humming blue line into the air, slowly shaping a memory sketch, a broken tree, a blood-red river, and a pair of glowing eyes in the dark. She didn't need to remember those eyes. They had been watching her since she was 5, since the day she changed. Back then, Kaela had been like any other Hollowborn, a child of the domed city, born under engineered lights and raised on the strict customs of the Vaelan unity. Their people had one rule above all others: never resonate with the wild. The wild was the unmeasured, the unpredictable parts of Vaelora that lived beyond the cities, roaming by spells, psychic storms, the shifting flora that grew where no architecture could hold. Resonance, the telepathic connection shared between bonded beings in Vaelan society, was sacred. To bond with anything wild was to corrupt your soul and risk the collapse of your mind. But Kaela hadn't meant to. She had simply wandered too far from the gardens near the city edge, chasing the song of a bright-winged silthorn bird. When she found it wounded and alone, it had looked into her eyes and something ignited in her brain, like twin stars colliding. The resonance was instant and unshakable. Since then, Kaela had felt the pulse of the wild within her, the beat of the forest, the murmur of unseen creatures, the breath of the sky itself. She could hear the planet, and the planet could hear her. For 12 years, she'd hidden it. Vaelora's Harmony Council would exile her if they knew. Worse, they might sever her link to the wild altogether, a procedure that left survivors mute, numb, and often hollow-eyed. But lately, her connection had grown stronger, uncontrolled. Visions had started to bleed into her waking mind, images of flames devouring Ithara's Hollow, shadows rising from beneath the antigrav crust, and the sound of screaming metal torn by wind. Something was coming, and she feared she was the reason. Kaela Rin. She startled at the sound of her name. Behind her, a boy approached, Torin Vae, her old training partner from the academy. His uniform shimmered with the pearlescent trim of a council observer, not full authority, but eyes enough to report her for leaving the sanctioned bounds. "What are you doing out here?" he asked, eyeing the neural etcher, still active. "Sketching," she replied, powering it down. "Old habit," he frowned. "You're outside the permitted resonance field. You know the penalties." "I'm not resonating," she lied, though. Her heart still thudded in time, with a distant rhythm that didn't belong to her. "Just thinking." Torin's eyes lingered on her longer than necessary. His voice softened. "You've been distant lately. Everyone notices. You've barely shown up for the alignment trials." "I'm not interested in the trials," Kaela said. "What's the point of bonding with someone you don't even choose?" Torin's face darkened. "You know why? Our entire survival depends on resonance bonds. Without them, our minds collapse from overload. Without connection, we drown in the planet's frequency." Kaela turned away. She didn't have the heart to tell him she hadn't drowned. She'd learned to swim. "I just needed air," she said finally. "The city's been loud." Torin looked like he wanted to say more, but the wind shifted, and a faint vibration ran through the cliff. Kaela felt it first, in her bones, then in her mind, a subtle whisper like pressure in her ears. The wild was stirring again. Later that night, back in the shadowed alcoves of the inner hollow, Kaela sat in her quarters, fingers trembling as she reread a forbidden fragment from the deep archive. It spoke of the hollow, before the hollow, a time when early Valens lived in harmony with the planet itself, resonating not just with each other, but with the living biosphere. They had formed sympaths bonds that went beyond mind to reaching into soul to soul. But those who had tried to keep that path alive were hunted, their lineages erased, their names forbidden. Yet something within Kaela told her that sympaths had not died out. Her thoughts were interrupted by a chirp at her. A message pulsed across the crystal lattice. The Alignment Council requests your presence at first light. Your bond candidate has been selected. Kaela's stomach dropped. She had never applied, never agreed to participate. The council must have forced the selection due to her age 17 revolutions, the threshold for automatic pairing. She didn't even know the candidate's name. Anger surged in her, then panic. If the council scanned her during the pairing ritual, they might detect the resonance frequency already inside her, the one that wasn't from any human, but from the wild itself. She needed a way out, but there were no ways out of Etheris Hollow, not without consequences, unless she left entirely, outside the hollow, into the unmeasured, toward the voice she had been hearing every night in her dreams. The voice of something waiting, something alive, something ancient. Long before first light touched the towering spires of Etheris Hollow, Kaela Rin stood at the western airlock, cloaked in shadows and nerves. She had disabled the trace bead in her ankle an hour ago, melting the sensor coil with a thin filament of plasma drawn illegally from a mining tool she'd borrowed from her father's repair lab. A crime punishable by detainment. But she couldn't risk being followed. A soft hiss escaped the seal of the door as it opened to the outside the wilds of Vaelora. No security patrols crossed this quadrant, no one dared. The forest beyond was alive in ways the Unity never admitted. Most considered it a threat to be measured, quarantined, or ignored. But Kaela had felt it call her since she was a child, the moment she stepped past the invisible border between city and wild. Her skin tingled not with fear, but with recognition. The air here buzzed differently. Even gravity felt more fluid, as if the forest breathed in time with the wind. Above her, vines shimmered like veins of light. Strange flowers closed as she passed, as if bowing to her presence, and in her mind, a whisper, "You came." Kaela stopped mid-step. It wasn't words, not really, more like a feeling wrapped in memory. The same sensation she'd felt as a girl, when she'd first bonded with the injured silthorn bird. Only now, it was bigger, deeper, old. She followed. The voice, the arisen thicket, was not on any map. Vaelora's government had long since redacted anything beyond the luminous crescent ridge, claiming environmental instability. But Kaela had seen glimpses hidden in banned archive files, buried in restoration logs. She knew it was real. The deeper she went, the more unnatural things became. Trees twisted upward like frozen dancers caught mid-motion, their bark glowing with internal veins of biolite. Some emitted low tones, pulses that resonated not through sound, but directly into the bones, like music that played beneath thought. Small creatures darted through the foliage, their eyes intelligent. Watching her, they were not afraid. She paused at a cluster of crystal-leafed plants, placing her palm gently on a glowing trunk. Her mind slipped into the hum, and immediately the forest answered. Not with words, but emotion, memory, echoes of something ancient stirring. You are not the first, but you are the last. Kaela staggered back, her breath caught in her throat. She felt it clearly. Now there was something buried beneath this land, something long forgotten. A mind, or perhaps many minds, fused together by time and resonance, waiting, and it had been watching her. Meanwhile, back in the hollow, alarm bells began to stir. Torrin Vey stood at the edge of the council plaza, facing a screen that pulsed red. Subject: Kaela Rin, locator beacon. Disconnected, unauthorized breach at airlock 7. He stared in silence. Not Kaela, he thought. She wouldn't, she couldn't, but she had, and now he had a choice. Report her, or follow her. The city's sensors only picked up faint energy disturbances from beyond the crescent ridge. Nothing precise. No active beacons. No drones permitted beyond the perimeter. Yet Torrin had access to an old map, one his mother had given him before her disappearance years ago. She had once been part of a now-banned research expedition into Vaelora's resonance anomalies. No one ever spoke of it again, and no one ever found her body. Torrin made his decision. Kaela moved through the heart of the thicket now, pulled by an unseen force. The deeper she went, the more her resonance with the wild intensified. She began to hear thoughts, not her own memories of trees, fragments of dreams from creatures unseen, echoes of laughter from children who had never existed, and always, always that voice, "You carry the key." It became clearer as she approached a basin, surrounded by curved stone arches, remnants of some long-lost civilization. Vines draped across alien carvings. The floor was covered in moss that glowed softly under her boots. In the center stood a resonance spire, blackened by time, but humming faintly, like a heartbeat. She stepped closer. The air thickened. From behind the spire, a shape emerged, not human, tall and lean, with 4 arms and glowing green skin that shimmered like wet marble. Its eyes held galaxy steps beyond comprehension. It did not speak aloud, but Kaela felt its presence in every nerve ending. "You are sympath-born." Kaela flinched. "How do you know me?" "Because I was the first." Images flooded her mind, a time before the cities, when humans had first landed on Vaelora, when bonds between species and the planet had been natural. Before the Unity came, before the Purge, the being had once been like her resonant, connected while born. They severed the old ways, cut us off. They feared what we could become, but we remain, waiting for a bridge to return. Kaela trembled. "Why me?" "Because you are both and neither. A child of unity, with the soul of the wild. Your resonance is not broken. It is boundless." "What do I do?" The being reached out. Its fingers brushed her temple. Kaela gasped as a sudden surge of knowledge filled her, a map of resonance channels, hidden neural pathways, the truth of the planet mind, Vaelora's living core, buried deep beneath the surface. A consciousness that had once connected all life in a singular web now fractured. The hollow will fall. They are already unbalanced. You feel it, so do we. If the unity severs your link, the fracture will become collapse. You must choose. Silence your resonance, or awaken the world. Kaela fell to her knees, breath shaking. The weight of the choice threatened to crush her. And then a sound. Footsteps Tumen. She turned sharply as Torin stepped from the shadows, breathless, eyes wide with disbelief. He looked from her to the alien being, then back again. "Kaela, what are you?" She rose slowly, voice quiet but steady. "I'm what they tried to erase." The wild stirred around her in answer, soft wind, rising. Hum, petals, lifting toward the sky. She was no longer hiding, and Vaelora had begun to wake. The clearing was no longer quiet, as Kaela and Torin stood beneath the towering resonant spire. The atmosphere pulsed with rising tension, like a symphony preparing to break into thunder. Light filtered through the trees in rhythmic patterns. No longer random, the planet itself was breathing in sync with her presence. Torin's chest rose and fell rapidly, eyes fixed on the alien being beside Kaela. His voice came out a whisper, tight with disbelief. "This isn't possible." Kaela didn't respond at first. Her hand hovered over the spire's base, where ancient glyphs shimmered faintly with her nearness. They responded to her now, not as a foreigner, but as a speaker, as a key. The alien, still silent in voice, but thunderous in thought, turned to Torin. "He is bound to you." Hesitant, but curious. Kaela met Torin's gaze. "Why did you follow me?" He hesitated. "Because you're my friend. Because I couldn't let them take you without understanding what you'd become." His voice cracked. "Because I think you were right to run." She blinked, caught off guard. Of all the responses she'd imagined, support hadn't been one of them. Torin stepped forward carefully. "Kaela, that thing, my name is Soluwan." The thought hit both their minds, simultaneously, deeper than speech. It reverberated inside them, like a tuning fork struck in the chest. "I am the last speaker of the Root Concord. My bond was severed when the Valens burned the spirewood and shattered the planet mind. But your presence has reopened a channel. You carry resonance unfiltered, wild, unshaped, pure." Torin looked to Kaela. "This Root Concord, the planet mind, it's real." She nodded slowly. "I've felt it since I was 5. Every time I got too close to the forest, every time the wind sang in harmony with my thoughts. It's not just alive, Torin. It remembers. And it fears." Soluwan added, "Because the Harmony Council plans to finish what they started. A final severance. To erase the wild forever. A terrible stillness fell. Then Kaela asked, "How?" So, glowing eyes dimmed. "They have awakened the old weapon. Deep beneath the hollow, in the place your kind calls the vault, a psionic disruptor tuned to resonance frequencies. They believe it will eliminate instability." Kaela staggered. She'd heard rumors of vault programs, places where pre-Unity tech was stored, locked away due to its uncontrollable nature. But a disruptor, if fired, it wouldn't just affect Suluan or the forest. It would obliterate resonance itself. Destroy. The planet mind. Silence spread like a fog between them until Torin spoke, his voice thin with horror. "My mother. She used to talk about a final harmonic event. She said the council feared the wild because it reminded them of the first landing of the chaos before control, before they purified resonance into their version of it." Kaela turned sharply. "Torin, your mother was in the expedition, wasn't she?" He nodded. "She never came back. I always thought she died. But now I wonder." Suluan's head bowed. Some of them remained. Silent, hidden, waiting. Kaela's pulse quickened. "You mean? Your path may cross hers, but not, unless the world survives the coming breach." Kaela felt the hum again, the one deep beneath her feet, vibrating like an ancient engine. The spire beside her vibrated, low and deep. "The vault is awakening. Your people intend to fire the disruptor in 5 cycles. You must reach it before then." Torin stepped closer. "That's suicide. The vault is guarded by resonance wardens. It's under the Grand Tribunal itself. We'll never even make it into the outer halls, let alone past the inner sanctum." Kaela stared down at her palm. Her resonance flickered faintly. A wild pulse, untrained, but growing. She clenched her fist slowly. "I won't let them do this." "You will not be alone," Suluan said, reaching a hand forward. One of its fingers touched her forehead gently. A wave of cool light passed through her body. Kaela gasped as layers of her mind unfurled like petals under moonlight. Paths of thought that hadn't existed before now pulsed with purpose. "This is my echo, a seed of the Concord. You may call it the first thread. It will awaken your deeper resonance." Kaela stumbled, catching herself as her vision pulsed white, then cleared. In the distance, the planet mind murmured once more, clearer than ever before. "We remember you." Torin touched her shoulder. "If we do this, we'll be enemies of the Unity, outlaws, exiles." She turned to him, her eyes glowing faintly now, with a resonance all their own. "Maybe that's exactly what we need to be." By the time they returned to the hollow, the city was bristling with nervous energy. The skies had turned darker than usual. A strange haze pulsed across the glass dome above the tribunal hall. The resonance grid was flickering. Something deep in the vault had begun to stir. Kaela and Torin slipped into the lower maintenance levels, through tunnels only technicians and old students would know how to access. They avoided cameras, stepped around drones, listened to the tremors in the walls. The vault was beneath the tribunal's sanctum, secured by 3 resonance locks, each requiring pure harmonic alignment from sanctioned council minds. But Kaela no longer thought in terms of locks and codes. She thought in tones, in frequency, in feeling. At the first checkpoint, a sensor flared to life. It scanned Kaela's hand and flickered red. Unauthorized. She reached forward, eyes closed, and let her resonance rise, not focused or shaped, but honest, raw, wild. The panel pulsed blue. Resonance accepted. Torin gaped. "How? I'm not breaking in," she whispered. "The planet is letting me in." When they reached the final gate, deep beneath layers of silence and metal, Kaela could feel it, the disruptor. It sat like a heart forged from nightmares. Veins of dormant energy weaving up through cables and containment rings. At its center, a resonance crystal the size of a grown man. Humming faintly. If activated, it would detonate a harmonic wave, strong enough to erase every wild bond across Vaelora, including hers. "I don't think we can stop it physically," Torin said, scanning the console. "They've locked it behind a coded resonance chain. 6 council minds keyed together. We don't need to stop it physically," Kaela said. Stepping forward, she placed her hand on the disruptor, closed her eyes, and reached, not outward, inward, downward, into the forest, into Saloon, into every echo that had ever passed through Vaelora's wild places. She let go of control, and the world answered. Her body pulsed with light, not from the outside, but from every cell. Her resonance rose like a wildfire, spiraling into the disruptor crystal. It glowed blue, then purple, then white-hot, and then it cracked. The lights in the chamber flickered violently. Sirens began to rise overhead. The vault had felt her so, had the tribunal, and in that moment, surrounded by darkness and alarms, Kaela opened her eyes and smiled. The vault trembled, not with an explosion, but with a resonance that spread like heat in water. A wave, not of fire, but of frequency. Kaela stood before the cracked disruptor, her fingers still glowing, the air around her thick with pressure and light. The harmonic surge she'd poured into the device had shattered its artificial frequency crystal. Not destroyed the weapon completely, but uncalibrated it, corrupted it. It could no longer fire without risking a collapse of the entire resonance. Grid across Vaelora, a temporary victory. One bought with time. Sirens wailed in the depths above. Them now, and the heavy grind of doors shifting echoed through the chamber's walls. Somewhere behind the steel veins and glass nerves of the vault, the council had realized what she had done, and they were coming. Torin pulled Kaela back from the platform. We need to move. That bought us what minutes. Maybe, she whispered, her voice trembling but not with fear. Something deeper stirred inside her. The wild resonance hadn't left after she touched the disruptor. It had grown. Her heartbeat now echoed in her ears like drums of the forest. She felt awake. Then let's use them, Kaela said. They sprinted toward the maintenance shaft. Deeper into the tunnel network instead of back. Toward the surface. The map Torin carried lit a path that hadn't been used in decades. A collapsed transit chamber built before the Unity's formalization. Back then, the early settlers believed in expansion, in exploration. They hadn't yet decided that the wild was an enemy. Where does this lead? Kaela asked, as they ducked beneath a fallen conduit. My mother's notes said it was called the Underharmonic Bridge, Torin replied. Some kind of failed interface with the planet's deeper layers. She thought it was where the planet mind first tried to speak to us. Kaela stopped. The planet mind. Ever since Solomon's touch, its presence had been louder. Sometimes in words, sometimes in symbols. But now it spoke with urgency. Below, we wait. Follow the unbound light. They pressed on. Far above them, in the vaulted crystalline dome of the council tribunal, 12 elders stood in a ring of violet light, robes flowing like smoke. Their faces were expressionless, but the air between them buzzed with tension. Subject. Kaela Rin has fractured the disruptor, one stated, a tone of ice. Impossible. She is untrained. Barely bonded. The weapons crystal is locked behind 6-code resonance shielding. And yet, another replied flatly, the crystal no longer aligns. They turned to the central figure, Archon, Maron Ve, father, a man of precision and calculation. His eyes had not moved from the floating image of the cracked disruptor. This cannot be random, Maron said finally. Her escape, her bond with the wild. The failure of the alignment trials. We are seeing the emergence of a variable we did not account for. A silence passed between the others. Then one whispered, the sympaths. The word had not been spoken in decades. A curse, a myth. But now, it drifted between them, like ash from an old fire. Maron's voice dropped. Find her. Bring her here alive. If we cannot sever her bond, we must extract the source. Outside the tribunal, the sky cracked with lightning, unnatural, and blood-red. The wild was no longer sleeping. Down below, Kaela and Torin emerged into a wide subterranean cavern. The floor pulsed faintly with veins of blue-green light, as if the rock itself were breathing. Massive pillars arched over a hollow chasm, and in the center, a singular sphere floated, spinning slowly, orbited by rings of glyphs that shimmered. With every movement, Kaela stepped toward it instinctively. The air here wasn't just thick with resonance, it was saturated. Every footstep echoed thoughts. Every breath carried emotions. The glyphs recognized her before she touched them, shifting in welcome. Torin kept his distance. Is this the heart? Kaela didn't answer at first. Her hand moved toward the sphere. It didn't burn or resist. It sang. The glyphs began to whisper names, not in Vaelin tongue, but in something older, deeper. One word repeated again and again, until it etched itself into her thoughts. She gasped. What is it? Torin asked. Kaela turned slowly. It's my name. But not my name. It's what the planet mind calls me. It is what you are. Soloin's voice drifted through the chamber, not in form, but through thought. Kaela felt his presence again, even from afar. The Kalshara are those who speak the unshaped song, who do not bind the wild, but become part of it. You were not born, you were chosen. Torin stepped forward, unease plain in his face. Kaela, you're starting to sound like them. She smiled faintly. Maybe that's because I am one of them. She touched the sphere. The cavern darkened. And then stars. Not real stars, but images of them. Hundreds, thousands. Entire constellations projected in the air above them, spiraling like a galaxy. In the center, Vaelora, spinning gently. But around it, other worlds. Other points of light. Other connections. Kaela staggered back, overwhelmed. It's a map, she whispered. Not of planets, of resonant worlds. They're linked. Torin stared upward. This changes everything. We're not alone. No, Kaela agreed. We never were. A sudden pulse rocked the ground. Not distant here. From the wall behind them, a narrow crevice began to split. At first Kaela thought it was seismic activity, until a claw emerged through the rock, then another. A form stepped forward, tall, clad in a sleek neural harness, its face hidden behind a translucent resonance mask. A warden, not the ancient kind. A council one that had followed them. Torin cursed, and drew a defense baton from his coat. The blade humming with static charge. Back, he barked. Kaela! Run! But she didn't run. She stepped forward. The warden lunged, its hands pulsing with resonance shock. Kaela raised her arm, not to block, but to resonate. The shock struck her, and passed through. She absorbed it. The cavern pulsed in response. Light swelled from the floor, arcing up her spine. Her eyes turned white with resonance glow. She spoke a single word, and the air cracked around her. Harmony. The warden stopped, frozen. Its mask flickered, and then, impossibly, it dropped to its knees. Kaela's voice dropped to a whisper. It remembers. The warden knelt in silence. Its limbs, built for obedience, trembled as Kaela's voice echoed through the chamber. Not loud, but resonant. The kind of sound that didn't pass through the air, but through the soul. It had spoken to something, buried beneath layers of programming and law, and something inside the warden had answered. Torin stood frozen, weapon still humming in his hand, though he no longer aimed it. His voice was dry when he spoke. What did you do? Kaela's breath was unsteady. I didn't command it, I just remembered. The glyphs in the floating sphere above them pulsed again, casting shadows across the cavern walls in waves of light. More names flickered, symbols now clearly representing not just places, but people. Lives woven into the fabric of the planet mind. Some pulsed faintly, fading, others brighter. Recently awakened, and their one name glowed brighter than all the rest. Kaela stepped closer, her heart stalling as she read it aloud. Sorenve. Torin's head snapped toward her. He staggered forward, his voice hoarse. My mother. Kaela nodded. The sphere shifted, coordinates flared. A tunnel opened in the wall behind the sphere, as if the system itself were responding to her recognition, offering a path. She's alive, Kaela whispered. She's still connected. Torin stared at the opening, disbelief written across his face. Then he looked to the warden, still kneeling, mask flickering like a broken screen. I don't understand, he said softly. These things were programmed to erase wild resonance. They were designed to silence people like you. Kaela stepped toward the warden. It's not about programming anymore. It heard something older. Gently, she reached forward. Her fingers brushed the edge of the warden's helm. The crystal interface crackled. then fell silent. With a hiss, the mask lifted, revealing a face beneath, pale, almost translucent skin. Not fully human, not fully machine. An engineered hybrid of sorts, but its eyes. They were wet with tears. "Who are you?" Kaela whispered. The warden's lips parted. Its voice came like a song turned into speech, soft, musical, stuttering on syllables unused for years. "I was Ian, before the council took my voice. Before they reshaped me." Torin backed away, stunned. "That's a person." Kaela nodded slowly. "They didn't destroy the sympaths, they rewrote them." Ian's voice trembled. "We were the first to bond too deeply. The council feared the planet mind, so they caged us in steel and called it service." Kaela's fists clenched. Every truth peeled back revealed another layer of cruelty. Another reason to tear the system down. "We're not here to obey," she said. "We're here to restore." Ian bowed their head. "Then I will guide you. If the name Sorenve is called by the sphere, she is among the resonant sanctum. A vault the council never found. Beneath the fathom-root basin." Kaela turned to Torin, who had gone pale. "My mother, all this time." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Hours later, beneath the cover of the glowing forest canopy, the three of them, Kaela, Torin, and the freed warden, An, emerged from a hidden side access port miles beyond the city's reach. Their route had taken them through forgotten aqueducts, maintenance chutes, and resonance-dead corridors, where the Unity's sensors couldn't follow. Above them, the sky shimmered, with a strange aurora, reds and blues, spiraling together, like molten glass. The planet mind was stirring again, and not quietly. "It's waking more than just memories," Kaela said, eyes fixed skyward. "It's warning us." Ian nodded. "The wild will not remain passive. The council's weapon may be broken, but they will respond with another." "Like what?" Torin asked. "Containment. Martial silence. The tribunal will declare a resonance quarantine. They will claim that the forest itself is corrupted, and the people will believe them, unless we give them another truth." Kaela's gaze sharpened. "Then we show them one." The fathom-root basin was a myth, a place whispered of in exile texts, where roots of the ancient world touched the molten veins of the planet. It was said to hum with the original resonance. Before machines, before cities, before the separation, they reached it at twilight. A valley split open like a wound in the earth, its center filled with glowing water that did not ripple. Massive trees curved inward from the cliffs like cathedral pillars, their leaves pulsing with slow, deliberate light. Kaela felt dizzy the moment she stepped over the ridge, not from fear, from familiarity. She dreamed of this place her whole life, and now it was real. In the center of the basin stood a stone monolith, slick with moss, humming softly. Runes carved into it shimmered as Kaela approached. Ian fell too. One knee Torin stared, then took slow steps forward, awestruck. "This is a sanctuary." Kaela placed her hand on the stone. It pulsed beneath her fingers, warm, a heartbeat then, a voice. Not SOL-UN, not the planet mind, a woman's. "Kaela." She froze. Her knees buckled. Torin dropped beside her. "Kaela, what is it?" But she didn't answer him. The voice came again, stronger. "You've come farther than I dreamed. But the path is narrowing. They're coming." Kaela whispered in too. "The air. Who are you?" A pause. Then, "I am Soren, your guide." "And your shield," Torin gasped. No, that's not possible." But it was. The monolith shifted, opened, and from within, suspended in crystalline stasis, emerged a figure. Hair long, skin woven with resonance glyphs, floating in silence, but unmistakably alive. Kaela fell backward. Torin dropped to his knees. His voice cracked open like something fragile. "Finally breaking, Mom." And for a moment, there were no more words, just the song of the forest, the steady rhythm of the planet mind, and the long-awaited return of a voice that was never truly lost. For a long time, the only sound in the basin was the water whispering across the smooth stones, humming with resonance that felt older than time itself. Kaela knelt before the crystalline shell that held Soren Ve, her hands trembling not with fear, but awe. The woman within the crystal didn't age. Her eyes remained closed, her body suspended in perfect stillness. Glyphs flickered faintly beneath her skin, not like tattoos, but like stars behind glass, moving in time with unseen rhythms. Torrin stood as if paralyzed. His voice broke the silence like a stone dropped into deep water. She's been here, this whole time. Ian stepped forward, examining the chamber. Not dormant. Listening. The sanctum binds the wild to those strong enough to bear it. Soren was the last Kalshara before Kaela. Kaela turned to them slowly. She's been guiding me. Through the dreams, the visions, Torrin's voice cracked. She knew you. Kaela looked down at her hands. She chose me. For a brief moment, the air grew heavy, then vibrated, subtly, like the planet exhaling. The crystalline shell around Soren shimmered, and a pulse of energy radiated outward, knocking Kaela back a step. Then the shell cracked. Torrin cried out, reaching forward. But Ian stopped him with a gesture. Wait, they said. She's returning. The light inside the chamber grew blinding. Then a burst, pure white, silent, but forceful, shot out from the crystal. It expanded like the first breath of dawn piercing a storm. When it faded, the woman stood barefoot in the shallows, hair flowing like black silk, her eyes glowing with a soft lavender fire. Sorenve was awake. She turned first to Torrin. Her son, he, couldn't move, not even when she stepped forward and placed her hand gently on his cheek. I've waited too long to see your face, my heart, she whispered. And you've grown into someone I do not know, but already love. Tears streamed down his face. I thought you were dead, he managed. I was, she said, to the council, but not to the world. She turned to Kaela next. Her gaze softened, not with the affection of a stranger, but with the weight of something deeper. You heard me, Soren said. Even before the wild could speak in full, you carried the unfiltered thread. The same one I once did. Kaela swallowed hard. Why me? Because you are not shaped to serve. You are shaped to feel. Soren's voice resonated like a forgotten lullaby. That is what they fear most. Kaela lowered her gaze. The disruptor. It's only the beginning. They'll strike again. Soren nodded. The council has always feared what they could not own. They believe if they cut the root, the song will die. Her eyes narrowed. They are wrong. That night, the basin glowed brighter than ever before, not from natural light, but from the gathering of something unseen, something long buried, will. Ian stood watch at the ridgeline, attuned to the winds above. Torrin knelt beside his mother, asking questions between tears, between long silences that needed no words. Kaela sat alone on the edge of the waters. The glyphs in her skin, once dormant, now burned softly across her arms, her spine, her chest. The resonance inside her was no longer something she channeled. It was her. She felt every vibration of the world, every breath of the forest, even the mourning of distant trees torn down by unity machines. She was awake in ways she hadn't known were possible, so Arwayan approached, quietly, and sat beside her. You feel it, don't you? She asked. The pain, the hope. Kaela nodded. It's overwhelming. It's always overwhelming at first. Soren looked out over the water. The first Kalshara broke when she opened fully. Her mind splintered into 1,000 echoes. Kaela looked to her, startled. Then why? Because we must. Soren turned to her. We are the bridge between the wild and the bound. If we do not speak, there will only be silence. Kaela's voice was soft. And if I fall, then I will catch you. And for the first time, Kaela saw the truth. This wasn't destiny. This wasn't prophecy. It was inheritance, passed not through blood, but through resonance. The council claimed they brought unity through silence, but the Kalshara remembered what it meant to sing without chains. And it was time the world remembered. 2. They left the basin before dawn. Soren led them through paths long buried, invisible to unities. Scanners. They traveled through whisper woods that bent to shield them, across stone bridges that only sang for those who walked with open minds. By the second night, they reached the edge of the unity perimeter, where cities floated on resonance towers, and citizens walked past each other without ever touching minds. "Do they feel anything anymore?" Kaela asked, as they watched from a ridge. Soren's face was unreadable. "They've been taught that feeling deeply is weakness, that wild resonance is noise." Kaela's hands clenched. "Then it's time to make noise." Soren smiled faintly. "We will, but not with violence." Torin joined them. "Then how?" Kaela stood with truth. Their arrival at the outskirts of the Grand Tribunal was unannounced. No weapon, no fleet, just 3 figures, cloaked in plain robes, and one former warden. Walking freely for the first time in years, they entered the city like a breeze, slipping through a crack, unnoticed, unmarked, until Kaela stepped into the Echo Square, and spoke not to a person, to the air, to the grid, to the sleeping minds behind. The glass towers and silent streets. Her voice did not scream. It sang, a tone soft, full, rising like dawn through fog, and every resonance interface in the capital flared to life. Screens blinked. Walls pulsed. Pathways glowed. And Kaela's voice filled them all. "I am Kaela Rin, born of no house, trained by no council. And yet, I carry the wild song you have tried to erase. They told you to fear what cannot be bound. They told you harmony means silence. They lied. Resonance is not control, it is connection. And connection hurts, but it also heals. We remember what you forgot." One by one, people paused. Heads turned, windows opened, and the silence, the long, sterile silence of Unity cities, began to crack. Kaela stepped forward, her glyphs glowing, her voice steady, and the resonance grid answered. It began like wind moving through glass, not violent, persistent. Kaela's words, carried by resonance, flowed into every interface across the capital. What began as one voice grew amplified, not by machines, but by response. First came the gasps, then the stares, then the quiet, undeniable ripple of awakening. Children touched their fingers to glowing glyphs on building walls and felt warmth. Workers paused mid-step, the Unity implant tones in their skulls dimmed by the unfiltered sound of her voice, and, across the city, people who had never dreamed beyond function or protocol felt something break open in their chests. But within the Grand Tribunal, towering above the capital, like a spire of bone and logic, the silence broke violently. Archon Marinve stood at the edge of the Grand Halo, staring at a flickering grid where Kaela's face now pulsed in slow rhythm. The glow of her skin, the clarity of her eyes. It wasn't chaos he saw, it was a mirror cracked. "End the broadcast," he said. A technician turned, shaking. "We can't. The signal isn't external. She's using the resonance veins, direct interface with the city's songlines." Another elder snarled, "Then sever the lines." "She is the line now," someone whispered. Marin's fist slammed. "The console. Then we erase the source." He turned to his guard. "Bring me the echo suppressor. And send the elite warden units. I want Kaela Rin silenced, and the wild with her." In the streets, Kaela walked slowly toward the tribunal square, not running, not hiding. Around her, people gathered, some uncertain, some terrified, some curious. Behind her came Soren, Aeon, and Torin, a procession without weapons, but not without power. Glyphs pulsed under their skin like heartbeats. Even Ion, once bent in metal obedience, now walked taller with each step, resonance blooming in their very breath. Kaela could feel the council's storm building. They would strike soon. The real question wasn't when. It was how hard. As they crossed into the open plaza before the tribunal steps, a sharp chime split the air, high-pitched and artificial. From every side, shimmering figures emerged from alleyways and glass doors. The elite wardens. Sleek, unfeeling, dozens of them, each carrying an emitter node mounted to their spines. Long rods of neural suppression, designed for only one purpose: to mute the wild. To extinguish resonance. Soren stepped to Kaela's side. "If they strike, they won't hold back. The echo suppressor. It won't just kill your voice. It'll break the planet mind's tether across the capital." Kaela stared forward. Her fingers trembled, not with fear, but with pressure. The kind that builds before a fracture. She felt the glyphs along her palms shifting again, like an ancient script reordering itself. They think this ends with force, she said. But this was never a war of weapons. Torin stepped forward. Then what do we do? Kaela looked at the crowd behind them, faces drawn, breath held. We sing. The first warden raised a hand. Energy sparked, high-pitched like a scream caught in glass. And Kaela moved first. She stepped forward, eyes wide, and lifted her hands as the song inside her burst outward. Not just voice this time, but raw. Frequency, old and unshaped. Alan Tai. Sure, single quotes, and ... Bassa. The words weren't from any known language, but everyone understood them. The sound passed through bodies, through concrete, through armor. The lead warden staggered, a glyph on his chest blinked and died. Then another. Kaela kept singing, Desar. Lunkai. The sound lifted. So Ryn joined in, her voice weaving a second thread, low, full of shadow. Ian followed, their voice ethereal, all breath and longing. The air shimmered, and in that moment, not all but some of the wardens hesitated. They faltered, because something inside them remembered. Behind the soldiers, Marinve watched in horror as his so-called army began to listen. This ends now, he snarled, slamming his palm onto the activation pad of the echo suppressor. The tower above the tribunal flared with red light. The sky went silent. The resonance grid, every songline Kaela had touched, began to collapse. Kaela gasped as the threads around her flickered. The glyphs across her body spasmed, fighting to hold on. Soren screamed. Ian dropped to one knee, face twisted in pain. The suppressor wasn't targeting them individually. It was deleting the connection. The planet mind cried out, not in sound, but in a wave of grief. Across the city, lights dimmed. The forests at the edge of the capital curled inward. The stars overhead pulsed in panic. Kaela stumbled. Her voice caught in her throat. Torin caught her before she fell. You have to stop it, he pleaded. You can stop it. Kaela closed her eyes, and in the dark, she listened to the broken fragments, to the old wild pulse beneath the engineered silence, to the dream that was never fully erased. And there far below the plaza, in the deep roots of the world, the planet mind sang a final chord. We are still here. Kaela stood, with what strength remained. She raised her arms again, but this time, she didn't sing alone. From the rooftops, from windows, from alleyways, the people answered. One voice, then 10, then hundreds, then thousands. Children, mothers, workers, even ex-wardens, their glyphs reawakening. Alice and Vaelora, Shanti. It was not rebellion, it was remembering. The suppressor shuddered. Cracks raced along its spire. The sky lit with resonance, no longer just Kaela's, but everyone's. Marin's eyes widened. No, they're not supposed to. But before he could finish, the tower exploded in a wave of pure harmonic backlash. Light engulfed the plaza. Kaela closed her eyes, and the silence shattered.